Hi, my friends. Let's make sure this is going live okay. Hope you had okay, I think we're live now. I think we're visually live. Hope you guys had a beautiful holiday weekend. I'm just going to scoot this over so I can see my notes. If you're watching the replay, please say hey to me. I love to hang out with you as if we were in real time. So drop your aha moments, drop any comments for me, and I always come back and answer any questions that are left. So really hop in with your comments because I'm telling you, this is going to be a good Facebook Live. I did the podcast this week is 50, how to get basically 50 5-star reviews on your podcast. That's what I did this year. But the reason I want you to listen to that podcast episode is because I really unpack the secret sauce behind why I was able to do that and why it really wasn't a fluke, right? Why I've been able to grow my Facebook group the way I have, why I've been able to, grow on Instagram, whatever platform it is you're trying to grow, whether it is your podcast or I really feel like this week's podcast is going to be so helpful for you in breaking that down. Also, this Facebook Live is going to be a supplement to that because I really want to talk about how to ask for anything you want in your business. This is so important, right? Think about when it comes to the sale, when it comes to selling our paid product or service, right? We have to ask. Similarly, I want to talk about that conversation in regards to visibility and how you can use the skill of asking to grow your audience, get more visible in an organic way. Okay, so are you guys ready for that? If you're joining me live, please say hello. And let me know where you're tuning in from. I would love to just chat and hang out with you. So again, I want to do a whole nother Facebook Live on like how to ask for the sale. But today we're specifically going to be talking about how to ask for visibility, how to ask for social shares, right? I hear so many women come to me and saying, Anna, my audience is mostly referral based. I want to get away from that. And I want to say something mind-blowing to you. What if instead of getting away from the referral base, what if you started scaling your referrals? What do I mean by that? I really feel like when someone shares your organic content, right? When you do some of what I'm going to teach you today in today's live stream, it's almost like referrals on steroids. So instead of saying like, I don't just want to get referrals, how can what gets you referrals? Doing good work, building relationships, right? As you have that skill set. So as you start to leverage and scale that through social sharing, through asking, through more visibility in this way, I really feel like that's the way you scale referrals, scale organic growth. And I really feel like organic growth, organic visibility is some of the most powerful you can have because I see it convert so high. I see it convert so well, right? Because that audience isn't randomly coming to you. That audience really is coming from a trusted source, right? Or something that resonated with them online. Okay, so I'm going to talk through a few examples, but and I just want to get really specific with you too. So what I put in today's is some examples of how you can ask for visibility. Like what's an example of that? You can ask a friend can I be on your podcast, right? Basically, it's pitching yourself. But I think giving yourself permission to simplify it down to just like I love simplifying sales by using the word invite instead of feeling like, I have to sell to my audience, right? When we use the word invite, sometimes it takes down the pressure on sales. And we're just like, oh yeah, I'm not selling. I mean, I am, but I'm just inviting people to my program. I'm excited about my paid program and I want to invite people to my program. Sometimes that word feels better for people. Let me know in the chat box if that word invite feels more exciting than selling, right? Similar with your visibility, I want to introduce the word asking, right? You want to ask someone, hey, can I be on your podcast, right? If pitching feels super intimidating, don't use the word pitch, right? Use the word ask. I want to ask someone, can I be on your podcast? Maybe you want to ask, and this is a tactic that I did so often at the start of my business that you guys, I think is like a secret sauce and really powerful. And that is I asked people to come onto my platform. And you may think, well, I don't have a podcast I can invite people onto. If you have an Instagram account, if you have a Facebook group, you have a platform you can invite people onto. Very early on in my business, I called it like a self-care week where I had women, guest experts come into my group and share. And I was featuring them, but in exchange, I asked them, hey, would you invite your audience to come in for self-care week, right? So I'm organically growing because I'm asking them to bring along their audience, right? I also did that a little further in, and that was just like with peers and like people kind of the same amount of audience that I had or less. But then a little bit further in, I got bold and I invited some people that were bigger than me that had bigger audiences than I did. I didn't think that they would say yes, but because I through organic relationships, like I asked someone who knew them, hey, would you forward this email to them? Would you ask them, right? I did my relationship building, and I was able to get 5 women that had much bigger audiences than me. I featured them in my group. And again, in exchange, I said, I asked them, would you share this with your audience, right? Would you share this? And so that's a way that I grew organically at the start too. Other examples of how you can ask for organic social media growth is often like when I post on Instagram, I will literally say, hey, if this resonated, share it. Hey, if this resonated, save it, right? Because when someone on Instagram story shares your content on their wall, right, that's bringing people back and probably good leads in a sense, because it's people that are really resonating with your content and you're kind of being recommended by their friend, right? Whether you're featured on a podcast or featured on someone else's Instagram stories, little scroll, like we need to remember that when someone features us like that, right, we're really borrowing the trust of their audience. Okay. Let's see. And again, I go into more depth in this in the podcast, but for my podcast and for getting reviews there, I really asked people, I had people be on a lunch team, which if you were part of the lunch team, I just want to say thank you so much. And I really incentivized them, right? I did giveaways and I really asked and I was really specific and direct. And I feel like that really helped. So if you are someone who has a lot of referrals in your business, I want you to start thinking about this, that I already know how to get referrals. I already know how to do good work. The next level for me is really leveraging that by using that skill I have and asking my friends, asking my coaches, asking, the people I'm networked with to share. Right? And it can be as simple as that. And I think, I titled this like how to ask for anything you want. The most important part of that, or how to make that the easiest, is first by having super clarity on what you want and what you're asking them, right? Like when I did my little self-care week, I said, this is what I'm asking. I'm asking for you to come and do like a 30-minute live stream, I think it was, or maybe it was just a giveaway. I can't remember. But I was really clear on this is what I want you to do. And also, I want you to share it with your audience one time or whatever it was, right? And so having a lot of clarity, I think, makes it so easy for the person to say yes, right? They know what they're saying yes to. And this is so true with the sale too, right? When we are pitching a program or an offer, the more clarity we have and the more simplicity we have in our business, the easier it is for people to say yes to it, right? Likewise, when we're pitching or asking for someone to share our social post or be featured on their podcast, when we have a lot of clarity around what it is, we can ask in a way that's really simple, right? People are busy, right? Especially if people have bigger audiences than you, right? When people ask me for things, I more often than not say yes when I can do it quickly and easily, or I can have my team do it, right? And so I think it's remembering when we ask someone something, right? When we ask a big influencer to share our upcoming challenge, we want to make it simple by having a swipe file. We want to have some text and graphics that's easy for them to share, right? And when my clients ask me, hey, Anna, I'm running a challenge. Here's the swipe file. Can you share it? I'm going to say yes, right? Because it's simple and easy and it's really clear what they're asking of me. And I think sometimes we get afraid, like, I don't want to be super specific because what if that person, can't do it in that way? But I think let's start with the clarity and let's start with the simplicity, and they can always respond back if it doesn't work. Like I remember even one time someone asked me to be a part of a summit. They said, Anna, will you speak on the summit? And there was it was very clear, but there was a lot of requirements. It was like sharing to your email list 3 times and sharing on social this many times. And while I appreciated her clarity, it felt like a little much. So I said, hey, I'm happy to be on your summit, but this is what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to share it to my group 2 times or whatever it was, right? And she was able to respond back and say, yeah, that works great, right? But if she didn't have the clarity in the first part to ask what she needed and what she was looking for, it would be hard for me to respond back and negotiate and say, this is what I'm willing to do. Does that make sense? And so I think both parts are key, right? That we're super clear on the ask, that we're so clear, we make it super easy for people to say yes, right? But also on the receiving end, if you're on the receiving end of an ask, remembering that the answer doesn't have to be yes or no. Right? I did a live stream about this 2 years ago where I talked about how, on several, I think there was 2 different retreats was asked to speak on, and I almost said no, but instead I said yes, and I can do it if I was nursing my daughter at the time. Yes, I can speak at your retreat. I'm happy to do that. But also, I'm not going to stay overnight. I'm going to stay somewhere else with my family so I can nurse my baby, right? So I think both are key. Remembering as the asker, right, to be super clear and explicit, but remember as the askee, is that what we're calling it? What do you call if you're being asked? As the recipient of the ask, you're remembering you don't just have to say yes or no. You could say yes, but I want it this way. Are you okay with that, right? Having the permission to do that has won me so many opportunities in business, right? Instead of something feeling like a yes or a no, it feels like I can come back and negotiate and say, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to be on your podcast, but also I need this, right? Also with the no, right? When I do have to say no to someone if it's not a fit, I'm able to say no, but I'm happy to help you in this way. No, I can't speak on your podcast, but I would love to recommend this person that's great on this topic, right? No, I can't do a coffee date right now, but I would love to do a discovery call if you want to be a client, right? Whatever it is. And so remembering on both sides, like we have to be empowered, right? And I think knowing that part is so helpful too, because when we stand out and when we do ask something of someone, I think I used to feel like, I feel bad asking because I don't want them to feel bad, right? But remembering they're an empowered human, right? Just like I said to that person at the retreat, yes, I would love to speak, but also I'm not going to stay overnight, right? Is that okay with you? Like remembering that the person you're asking can say no, right? The person that you're asking can come back with a negotiation. And so be bold, ask for the moon, ask for the stars, like really be direct with the ask, and go for it. Okay, let's see. And I just want to say too, like this becomes easier over time. Like maybe it really feels intimidating to say, hey, do you want to come be featured? I'm doing like a little series on my Instagram where I'm interviewing people on Instagram Live. Do you want to be featured? I'd ask that you'd also share the series with your audience. Maybe that feels super gutsy and intimidating. And you're like, Anna, I've never even interviewed someone before, right? But know that over time, this gets so much easier. And I think when we realize like this is the key to organic growth, right? And like we talked about, this is the scaled referrals, right? This is leveraged referrals, like I called it referrals on steroids, and being able to use the fact that, and I found too, like I have been featured on a podcast before where someone has heard me on a podcast and signed my high-level one-on-one coaching program without even ever following me on Instagram or joining my Facebook group or joining my email list. Why? Why? It's because when you're featured on someone else's platform, there's kind of a borrowed trust there, right? It's almost like that person is vouching for you, right? That person is, as they're chatting with you on their podcast, right? It's that person, their audience is going to be like, oh, that Anna's close with that person that I trust, so I trust Anna too. And so again, it's like that referral. It's like when I was featured on that podcast, that person interviewing me was almost like referring me to her whole audience, right? And I think that can be really empowering, again, because instead of being like, oh, I suck at business because all I get is referrals, remembering I can use that to my advantage and I can be more visible in this organic way, right? Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions on this. And I also want to know, whether you're watching me live or if you're tuning into the replay, what's one ask that you can do this week? What's one ask? And again, it might be as simple as, if you're just starting out with this, here's what I recommend. I recommend you asking your audience to share your content. So if you write a really good piece of content this week, I want you to explicitly ask your audience, hey, would you share this with someone that would be helpful, right? Or someone that you think that this would be helpful for. Or all the time I tell people, hey, if you find value in my Facebook group, would you recommend it to your friends? You guys, and for the admissions questions on this group, one of the first questions is, where did you find out about this? Almost, I would say at least half of the time, people say they found this group through a referral, right? Through someone telling them about the group, right? And so remembering, you can allow that to happen naturally, but you can also say it, right? On Instagram, you could also say on your stories, hey, you guys, so many of you are commenting on that last Instagram post. If it was helpful for you, would you share it with your friends, right? Would you share it to your stories? That would mean so much to me that more women get the word on that message, right? You've just asked for more organic visibility. You've just asked for social shares, right? And we need to, you've heard me talk about this 1,000 times, but not just sell our paid stuff, but sell our free stuff, right? We have to be sold on the power of our free stuff, but also be willing to ask people to share that too, right? And in some ways, it's much easier than asking someone to share our paid product, just asking someone to share our social content, right? Asking someone to share in that way. And if you already do that, if you're like, Anna, I'm already a pro at that, really asking yourself, how can I use an ask to get someone on my platform or be featured on someone else's platform, and be guilt-free about it? Because knowing that that is the way, you guys know I really, really believe in solid content for your business, but the way that we grow our audience, that we not just serve, I think it's super powerful to always prioritize our current audience, to show up for our current audience, right? But at the same time, we also want to be growing our audience, right? We want to do both, right? We want to show up for our current audience, but we also want to make sure we're growing. And the way that we do that is through things like this, where we're using organic visibility to get more reach. Okay, hopefully this is going through okay. Let me know if you guys have an action in mind of an ask that you can do. Again, here's examples. You can ask to be on someone's podcast. It can be as simple as, if you have a friend who has a podcast, I would just start there. I would DM them or PM them, and I would say, hey, are you accepting guests on your podcast? I would love to speak on XYZ, right? Are you open to that? Maybe you want to, again, ask someone to, maybe you want to feature someone on your platform, knowing that they're going to bring their audience along, right? When I'm featured on someone else's platform, I usually tell my audience, hey friends, I'm being featured on so-and-so's podcast. Come follow her podcast, right? So maybe you want to ask someone else to be on your audience and grow in that way. And maybe if you have an upcoming free or paid thing, like if you have an upcoming webinar, or you guys know I love challenges, an upcoming challenge, literally get some swipe copy ready, get some graphics ready, and literally ask them, hey, would you mind sharing this challenge, right? I'm doing it on this date. Would you share this with your audience? And don't just ask one people, like ask several people, right? That way, if one person says no, you still have those beautiful shares. But I would love to know if there is a specific ask that you have in mind. Get that clarity around what it is, right? Get really simplistic with it, and then just ask. It's almost like the ask is the easy part, right? After you've taken the time to get clear on what it is. Okay, my loves. Make sure that you register for the free workshop next week. In 1 week, I'm leading a free visibility workshop on Zoom. I have 2 different times I'm doing it. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be incredible. I'm going to be doing some training on visibility, but also I'm going to be doing Q&A, and then you're going to be writing with me in the workshop, because you know me, I want you to walk away with some action and some content written, so that you feel super confident about your visibility. My hope is that even though you're just going to write one content piece with me live on the workshop, my hope is that it ignites you and unleashes you for your content this fall. Because what I find is when you start getting more confident with your visibility, when you start getting lit up, when you start getting on fire in that way, it makes the rest of it easier, right? On the QA call I did last week, I heard a lot of women say, like, Anna, I was visible, but I kind of petered off, right? Or I kind of, I've been inconsistent, and I am lacking the courage to get visible again, right? I'm lacking the clarity to get visible again. And I find that usually that start like recommitting and restarting up. And sometimes I think we have a fear of like, is it going to pay off? Like, is it going to be worth it? Like, should I even get visible? Is it going to be worth it? And so if that's you, and if you've been spinning in that area, sign up for this free workshop. It's really going to help you get unstuck, get onto the other side of action. You've heard me say this before, but at the start of my business, I really was waiting for, I was like, I just need to finally feel confident. I need to finally feel clear. Then I'll get visible, right? Not knowing that it was actually the visibility, the vulnerable visibility, that gave me the confidence and that gave me the clarity. And so that's why I want to, in this workshop, give you some training, but also help you actually get visible, because I know that that action is what's going to give you clarity and confidence for this fall. So sign up for that. And then again, if you have any questions, just pop them below. But I would love to hear, your homework is to let me know what your action is when it comes to asking. What are you going to ask for from your audience? I go into this more on the podcast this week too, but basically I asked my audience, the reason I got 50 reviews is I asked my audience, if this podcast resonates with you, would you leave a review? Like I just asked really specifically and I said that would mean the world to me, right? If you listen to the podcast and this is helpful, would you review? Like I really asked and I incentivized people to, right? I said, would you not only review the podcast, but would you share it, right? Would you do these things for me? And in exchange, I'm going to give you this workbook. I'd love to do this for you. So anyway, catch that episode if you have a podcast or if you want to know more about how I did that. Sign up for the workshop, and thank you for tuning in and hanging out with me. Okay, hope you have a great Tuesday. Hopping back on live on Thursday, so I will see you again then.